I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism, and this video is sponsored by contribution from Jonathan. And here's Jonathan. He wanted to do a live interview of this, so here we go. So, what's up, Jonathan? What do you want to talk to me about?
Well, wanted to go over just my life in a brief synopsis. I figured maybe doing something a little different, and I can relate with a lot of the people in the comment section are just uh, your subscriber base that are going through these kind of things in their life. So I figured I would just go over my early childhood. Um,
Right.
I grew up was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida,
Okay.
and my
Where I
yeah, my
am.
dad. Oh, okay,
Where I
yeah,
am right now. How old are you?
I'm 38.
Gotcha. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, and my father's a Vietnam vet, and my mother is she was born in like 57 or 58, and they met actually in Hendersonville, Tennessee, when he was a truck driver for
Gotcha.
just a short period of time. But I was born of a twin. I have a twin brother. We're fraternal,
Fraternal.
and
Gotcha.
yeah, and I had an older sister who passed away from methadone in '06
Sorry.
from an accidental overdose.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so my dad had a lot of drinking problems. He was a drunk and an alcoholic, and he was very abusive to all the kids.
Hmm.
And one time I remember I come home, or he came home from drinking, and it was like 3 in the morning, and there's a big clatter going on in the kitchen, and he was saying it's all the fucking kids' fault, and he's pulling shit out of the fridge and throwing it everywhere.
Right.
And yeah, I remember him. He would knock down the door and terrorize my sister,
As
and beat her up and shit.
as the alcoholic boomer is wont to do. Did he blame that on? He blamed it on you. He didn't blame it on like Vietnam or is any of that.
No, he never blamed it on Nam or anything like that. He was just a raging drunk.
Right.
Um, and his mother was a saint. My great grandma only spoke Italian, so my grandmother would have to translate. And I do remember a story where my grandma and my grandpa, he worked for the mob back in the after World War II, and they owned a bar or something. He worked for a guy called Jelly Bean back in the day, in the mafia days.
Where in
And
Tennessee?
no, 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 like Waukegan, Deerfield, Illinois area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I remember my grandma took my dad's younger brother and left my dad, and my dad stayed with my grandpa, and I don't know if that caused some motherly separation issues with women or something like that. But
Probably.
that's the only story. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
always weird. Like when they take one, like they split the kids and like who makes the decision. That's got to be detrimental on his psyche. Like, why didn't my mother want me?
yeah. And well, you got to think, dude. I was 11 when my parents divorced, and me and my twin brother had to choose what parent we were living with. And so me and my brother chose my dad because he was scared of him, and I chose my mom because I didn't want to be around a drunk. But she was a histrionic, narc.
Borderline, probably.
Anyway,
Right.
yeah, dude, yeah, she was, yeah, because man, I'll just go over some of the things. My mom and dad went through divorce in '95. Dad was dating a new chick that was like 30 or 31, and he was in his 50s because he was born in '46. I remember he pulling up in the driveway, and she was sitting in the car, and and dad would like break the windshield on the car, was getting all have just a weird outburst and shit, and it was just weird that I was seeing my parents' marriage dissolve, and he's bringing over a new woman, you know.
Right.
And before that all happened, you remember that Martin episode where he went boxing and his face got real swollen?
Oh, I haven't watched Martin in a while. I think so, though. I mean, I used to love
You
that
ever
show.
Yeah, I did too. I grew up on that. If
Right.
there's an episode where he went boxing and he got beat up and his face was really
I
swollen, if
think I
you ever
do.
watched
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Faint.
exactly what Yeah, my dad looked just like that. He came home from a bar, and I was scared to look at him because he was so swollen and scary. Because he was drunk, out chasing pussy, being a dummy.
And and he's in his 50s, and this happened.
Yeah, in the '90s. Yeah, this happened in like '93, '94, something like that. Yeah,
Boomer reliving the glory days. They can't let it go. Did he ever act like that with your mother? Get violent, or is it just with you
yeah. He
guys?
put a gun to her head. He would. I never seen her strike my mom, but she did tell me he put a gun to her head once. Um, yeah, but I don't remember him actually physically striking my mom. But he
Okay.
would hit the kids.
Right.
Yeah. And then, so my grandpa, my mom's dad, was dying right when they were going through a divorce. So I went up to Tennessee because I chose to live with my mother. And my grandpa was dying from Lou Gehrig's, and she ran up there to get his inheritance. And he was hiding money under the table for his taxes because he owned a cleaners.
Uh huh.
And her and all the siblings spilled the beans about it in court and fought all over the money. And yeah, so it's pitiful because he bought her a house. Like,
Right.
I would never even have that kind of opportunity. But yeah, I remember he bought her a house, and all this shit happened.
Typical boomer run for the money fight. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, I got cousins. I don't even know their name because they were born during that time, and I never seen them again. So
Right.
And then I got an aunt. I got an aunt, my mom's sister. And man, when I was living in that cabin, remember I lived in a cabin for a whole year. Remember that? You said it's just what I need when I sent you a recording.
I got you. I know who you are. Yes, I know. You,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was you
I still
talk.
feel embarrassed.
Right. It was you
Yeah.
talking, but you weren't on
Hmm.
camera, and it was a campfire. Was that the video?
No, I don't know if I had a really embarrassing outburst, man, where I went crazy mad because I was losing friends to suicide from Iraq, and my stepmom sent
Yes.
me a box of Clif Bars.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. 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 Okay.
Ollie, I'm really embarrassed about that, but that was the only. I don't know, man. I don't know what happened, dude. But I just got really really fucking pissed, man. And it's just the odd thing is my dad works at the VA as a VA rep, and he never even gave me a fucking phone call or a
Right.
phone number to contact anybody for disability compensation. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Because he's all about himself. He could give fuck all about anybody. What benefit does he have in helping you out there? I mean, this is, you got to understand the alcoholic boomer mindset. It's all about him. But I
yeah.
remember your story where you're telling me you had a bunch of guys went through that, and your mother is sending you just nonsense.
It was my stepmom.
Your stepmom.
Yeah, and I remember times where she would say, "You know how much money you cost us," and none of the kids ever had the parents pay for college. So
Right.
she would tell us, like, "You know how much money you cost us." I'm thinking, "What the fuck? I didn't choose to be born,"
Right.
you know?
Right.
Yeah, and so in the '90s, when my parents divorced and I was living in Tennessee, my mom found a husband who was the same age as my stepmom, so they both went out and got somebody young.
Right.
He was like a late gen boomer. He was born in like 64, 65. He could have graduated high school in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was that Jones era guy.
Yeah, that's Jen Jones. That's like the end of the Jen Jones, and they're the worst. They're actually the worst of the worst.
Hmm.
But you said your mom was born in '57, right?
57, 58.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
she's
late
Jen
50s.
Jones. Then she's Jen Jones too. So they're like the
Yeah,
worst of the boomers.
yeah, she graduated high school in 76, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just remember, man, one time I was sitting on the couch, and it was actually a Stabbing Westward song was playing, and it was "How Can I Exist Without You?" Remember that song
I
from
remember.
Stabbing Westward?
I remember "Save Yourself." Probably if I
Yeah, it was
heard it, I
before
know it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting on the couch. It was that night, and it was a small couch, and I'm probably 11, 12,
Right.
and my mom's just started dating my stepdad. And no shit, dude, they started making out right next to me, man. And I'm like,
I don't mean to laugh,
and
but
I
I mean,
still remember. No,
yeah.
it's
I
all
know.
right.
I know. You don't want to see. I know. I know. Listen,
Yeah,
they're a
and
generation of degenerates. I mean, that's the thing. They're just they don't give a fuck, and they were obsessed with staying young. You know, and any of them who had the opportunity to scoop up a younger spouse, boy, they're gonna do it. And now you said your mother got a younger guy, or your stepfather,
hmm
so he's fucked
yep,
up.
and he
So
was
then
living
he,
with his mom at
of course,
30.
he was, because I was gonna say he's a son
Yeah.
husband. So I guarantee you,
hmm
your mother and his mother are probably identical women. Was she
Yeah,
still?
and she doesn't like her.
Of course not, because they're the same. Well, I was
Yeah.
going to ask, is he still alive? And, well, they're of course they're not going to
Uh,
get along. They're the same woman.
yep. Yeah. Yeah, they clashed a lot. She never got married or just had a husband very long. She was a at home mom with kids and never stayed long term married to anybody. She had his dad ran off when he was, back in the 70s when you could go across state lines and you didn't have to have custody
Right.
of the kid. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's what his dad went through.
Okay.
So, yeah. And anyways, let's see. Last day of yeah. So my sister used to give my stepdad a hard time because I remember one time they were making out in the kitchen, and my sister goes, "Why are you doing that? Jonathan's here, and he's 11 years old." He's like, "Why don't you go in the room, weirdo?" And she was like 16,
Right.
And yeah, she was a firecracker, but it was just because my dad used to beat her up, and my mom was always like, she was just always hostile because of her environment. You know what I mean? She had a bone disease from Agent Orange, where her bones would grow weird, and
Right.
she would have metal rods in her arm, and it was just awful,
And
man.
this
And
is
so
your
she was real mean.
and this is your sister who overdosed on methadone. You're saying, right?
Yeah, it was an accidental overdose, and I got back from Iraq, and it was '06, and I remember she called me. This is around almost probably right before Christmas, and she was asked for money, and I was broke. I found out my mom took half my deployment money and bought land in Tennessee and put a house on it and sold it and kept it because I just got back from the war, dude. I
Right.
was in a real bad spot in Iraq. I was in Ramadi in 2005 as an infantryman.
Yeah.
So,
So it's oh
it was really rough, man.
yeah.
Yeah, so my
I
mind
remember
wasn't all
Ramadi.
there.
No, and
Yeah.
it's got to be for her at 16 for her to be like, no girl wants to see her mother fucking making out. And like
Mm-mm.
she said, Jonathan's here, but she's probably like, because she can't stick up for herself, so she's saying like, don't do it for John because you're here. So that's sad for both of
Mhm.
you, because who wants to see that?
It was gross, man. I just don't understand, like, it's just anyways, yeah, it was fucking weird, man. And so she took half my money, and I was broke. It was during the recession in '06. So right when
Right.
I get back from the war and I get out of the army, I'm fucking $5 a gallon for gas. I'm busting my ass at bullshit jobs, and she does that to me. And then my sister calls and asks, "Hey, I need some money to come see you for Christmas." And I said, "I don't have any money. I can't." And like a week or two later, after Christmas, we didn't hear from her, but she lay dead in her apartment during Christmas time. We didn't find out until like a week after, and she laid in there and accidentally died from a methadone overdose.
So if your mother hadn't taken your money, your sister might still be alive.
I think about that sometimes, man. Like, but my mom had the money. She could have fucking sent her down to hang out for the holidays.
How did she get the money, and how did she get access to the money in the first place?
Because before I deployed to Iraq, I had to put down, I didn't have to, but I put down, who's in charge of my banking while I'm deployed,
Yeah,
you know?
mistake.
Yeah. Yep.
And but you're young. When
Yeah.
did you
And
deploy? What were you, 23 when you deployed? 22?
I was 20 and I turned 21 in December, right
Yeah.
before I actually got mortared on my birthday in a tower. Mortars were coming in. That was,
Oof.
that was awesome. Yeah. But, yeah, I was 20 pretty much through the whole tour. And she was on my SGLI, which is like soldier life insurance type thing.
Right.
And it would have been 250,000. And sometimes I think, man, she was just banking on me to get fucking killed so she could get the money.
Probably.
You know,
Yeah. More than likely. What excuse did she give
Mhm.
you that she took the money and bought property with it?
I confronted him. I confronted him about it a couple years later, and my stepdad literally said verbatim, "No, why would we take your money buy some property and put a house on it and sell it. And I'm like, that's exactly what you did. You know, I was like, wow, that's verbatim. That's
And then
verbatim
they
what you did,
saw.
but they denied it.
Wow, wow. So then
Hmm.
you come back. Where are you living?
I was homeless for a little bit, and then I ended up getting an apartment and working at bullshit jobs. This is back in 06, 07 when an apartment was like $600 a month.
Right, right.
It-
And because
yeah,
she was authorized to your bank account, I mean, you can't charge her with any. There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing. Right? She
it's
had
an old
access.
account. It's gone. Yeah, she had access to it, man. Took my money and didn't even tell me about it.
I'm
Didn't
sorry,
even
that
tell me.
sucked, dude. I would lose my fucking mind. I would have lost my fucking mind.
I didn't figure this out, Ollie, until I was in my cabin, and I was like, I called my buddy that I deployed with, my old platoon sergeant, and I asked him, how much money were we supposed to come back with? And he's like, about 40 grand. I came back with 18. So that's how much
Wow,
she took from me
22,000
during the
dollars.
recession. You know, that could have helped me a
Bought
bunch.
property, built a house, and then sold it
Hmm.
with it.
And then
Wow,
denies that she'd ever do anything like that.
wow, wow. I'm sure she made a good chunk of change on it, and they didn't reimburse. Wow.
Oh, dude, it was a suburb of Nashville. So
Uh
just
huh.
imagine how
Yeah.
much money she got off of it.
Yeah, I got some friends in Nashville. I know how expensive it is now. I'm sure it was cheaper back then, but even still,
Yeah.
it's the principle of the whole matter.
Yeah. And then, to go back in time, I remember, dude, I was sexually assaulted from my aunt. I remember I was picking on my younger cousin, and she walked up to the stairs and grabbed me by the junk and says, "Does this hurt?" No shit. And this all came back to me when I was in my cabin off grid, bro. Like I
Right,
started remembering all this shit.
right.
And and my mother did nothing. Still talks to her like they're fucking buddies,
Hmm.
you know? Never stood up for me, but she always would tell me, "Why don't you stand up for yourself?" But she never stood up for me,
Right.
you know? And then I remember as a little kid, I had hernia surgery and there was a stitch that it didn't come out, and I had to go to the doctor. And I'm laying on the doctor table, and this nurse lady lifted up my underwear, like my hernia is, like a little bit below my belly button and to the right. So there's no need to. That's all you need to look at. And I remember she picked up my underwear and like peeked and looked at my junk, and I'm like, I'm sitting here with my mom and this nurse lady, and I'm just. It was fucking weird, man. It's like, why the fuck would somebody do that in front of their?
Don't they have to make sure like your testicles are not like because the hernia
Yeah,
one
but it
goes
wasn't
up.
that. It was on my stomach. It was on my stomach, it wasn't anything like that, but it was just weird that she did that. I just thought it was weird, man.
Probably because you're hypersensitive to what's already been happening to you with your aunt
Yeah,
grabbing your junk. So you're probably already
yeah,
sensitive to a woman just, you know, it sounds like that's probably more medical than her trying to get her than a nurse
yeah,
trying to get her jollies off in you because you don't have the clarity of what's going on yet. So it seems fucked up at the time, but that's on your mother and your aunt. How old were
yeah.
you when that happened?
I was about 12.
Right, right.
Ran in my room and was crying, and my mom did nothing. Still her buddy, still their cut. They still chat, like it's not a big deal, you
Was your
know.
mother ever sexually aggressive with you, like mine was?
Um, just like with that.
What you lost sound?
Sound. Oh, is can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I got you. Yeah, you.
Just like with her making out with my stepdad and shit in front of me. Wearing them fucking nasty Daisy Dukes in the house and shit was fucking nasty. Just
Hypersexual. Yeah, it's
yeah. I
hypersexual.
wonder if something happened to her when she was younger.
Oh, I'm sure it
Ollie.
did. Yeah, without question, I'm sure it did. What was her relationship like with her mother? Your mother?
They didn't get along.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. My grandmother was a little bit older than my grandpa, and they got. She lied about her age. She was 10 years older than she said she was, and she was yeah.
So it
This
runs in the
back in the
family.
'50s when.
So your
Yeah,
mother's
yeah,
probably in direct because your grandmother was probably in direct competition with your mother, and all that shit just keeps filtering down because My mother was in direct competition with her mother. It made her fucking, like, let's just call it what it is. And I've said it before. My mother was just a flat out whore, just a flat out sexually deviant whore that was hypersexual with me and my brother, whether or not he wants to admit it anymore or not. And that fucks you up.
That's the thing with my brother. That's what happened with my brother. I'd ask him, like, James, don't you remember all the fucked up things our parents did? And he would deny it. And I'm like,
Right.
dude, how do you not remember it? You were a fucking heroin junkie because all the fucking abuse you went through, man. Like, how do you
Right.
not? I remember you crying when Dad would beat you up at 16. You know?
Because he's weak. Listen, like, only the strong speak out, man. And it's tough, especially for a dude to talk about their mother being sexually fucked up around them or with them. It's tough. And they don't want to accept it.
Well, my dad was a little weirdo too, because I remember Hurricane Andrew hit, and for some reason, the heat was out, but the water ran, and they were like, to conserve water, all the guys have to shower, and then my mom and my sister showered, and I'm like, how does that make any fucking sense? Like, I don't want to see my dad fucking naked.
Right.
It was just weird. It's
I
just like,
know.
what the fuck is wrong with you
My
guys?
father, I've talked about, my father loved picking fights with me, fucking balls ass naked. Loved it. Loved, like, getting in my face with his fucking dick out. Like, it's just, it's a fucking power move that these boomer deviants have. So what, Andrew? So where were you living around Margate? I guess
Where
when Andrew hit, you were in Fort
I was
Lauderdale.
in Wellington.
Wellington, okay, nice
Yeah,
there. Oh,
yeah. He was
really?
he was a pilot for South Florida Water Management. He retired there. It was
Okay.
big money, man.
So yeah, I mean Wellington is fucking big money, big money, nice area.
Yeah, and then and then I got a tip of my finger cut off when I was last day of middle school, and I was asking my mother if I could through her door if I could stay home with one of my friends, and she was telling me no, and I'm like, Mom, it's the last day of school, and my stepdad got up and slammed the door in my face, and it fucking my hand was in the way, and it cut my finger off, the tip of my finger, my middle finger, it cut it off, and I'm
Jesus.
screaming, going, my finger's cut off, is hysterical, like running my hand in the sink, and I remember going to the fucking hospital and getting it was never got mad at my stepdad,
Right.
it was never his fault, and here I am in the hospital, and I just got done with surgery, and I'm fake sleeping, like, because they were talking, and I remember I didn't come to, like, with my eyes open, but I could hear him talking, and he pretty much said, like, it was my fault. I had my hand in the way. He slammed the door, to the
And
nurses or
what did they
whatever.
tell the hospital? They told the hospital this, and they didn't call the cops.
No, no, it was just them two that morning and just me. My
Unbelievable.
sister left when she was like 16 to go live with my dad in Florida, but
Right.
she clashed with my stepmom. So then, as soon as she was 18, she went and moved out on her own and was like a shot girl because she was real pretty, man.
Right.
And yeah, and I just think, like, how the fuck do you all this abuse I went through, man? And I'm just thinking, how did I fucking make it to where I am with all that shit that happened with me, man? Like, I'm not married, I don't have any kids. I have trust issues. Especially being a veteran, it's not easy.
Well,
You know,
as sad as it is, you probably had to go to a fucking one of the worst war zones in the last 70 years in order to not become a heroin addict. Because what, your sister was on methadone to get off of heroin, right? Like your brother
I
was on.
don't think she was on heroin. She had ankle problems from her bone problems as a shot girl, and
Okay.
I think she took it as for pain, and she was supposed to section it in corners, and she took the whole pill, and she died in her sleep, is what I was told. But I don't know if she was on drugs or not. I was just told it was accidental, and she took a pill and OD'd on the
I
pill in
would.
accident.
You got to question everything they've ever told you because they're fucking deviant liars. I mean, it would make sense that she was on methadone. If your brother was a heroin addict and she's having all these issues with your mother, then your father, and the stepmother, they probably just don't want to admit that two of their three kids are on heroin, and the only one that's not a heroin addict was getting blown up, nearly getting blown up in Iraq.
Yeah, and the sick thing is about that is my dad's got a picture of one of my friends that was killed. I was in a Humvee that mission, and dropped off some Iraqi army. And then later on that day, I was filling sandbags, and they said, "Hey, we got to go pick up the Iraqi army guys at this checkpoint." And I said, I've been filling sandbags all day, And he's like, "Yeah, I'll go wake up Matt." And his name is Matthew C. Bowling, and he went out and was killed that day. He got hit by an IED underneath, and my team leader was wounded. He was sitting next to him, and so my whole fire team was gone instantly. I didn't have a fire team anymore. I had to go to a different squad.
So if you
And
weren't doing, so if you didn't say I was doing sandbags all day, you would have been in that Humvee.
yep, yep. And my mom would have gotten my money, and they'd have gotten free sympathy.
And that was when
And
the Humvees had no armor on them, right?
no, we were literally
Yeah,
welding
I remember. I remember.
thin pieces of metal to the sides,
Yeah.
just for something.
Good
Like,
job.
we had no armor.
Good job, George Bush. You know, that fucking war.
Yeah.
Over nothing. Over nothing. And it's sad.
And I hear my dad was in Nam.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was in Nam. He knows about the war being bullshit, but yet at the same time, he was all about it because it made him look good because I'm in the military,
Right.
It was just to make him look good. That was it.
Right. And offered no help to you once you got back.
No,
So
none.
again,
Didn't even
just
give
a-
me a fucking phone number.
Just a pawn. And that's what you usually are with these boomers, just pawns.
Yeah. So my friend was killed, and I lost my girlfriend. I had a girlfriend that was back home. We both lost our virginity to each other. I still have dreams about her sometimes, but she
Right.
ended up cheating on me and getting married to some other guy.
Right.
And so I didn't really have anybody. And then I remember I come home, and all the families were notified that we're coming home. And my parents didn't come home to me coming home from the war. They had all excuses. They just didn't want to show up.
They had no use for you anymore. They wanted you to get blown up, and they wanted your money. And even better than the money was the pity they would have received off of it. You know, the mileage they could have gotten off that. My son died a war hero. I mean, how do they react? How do they react in regards to your sister ODing? Do they play a pity card, or do they just not talk about it?
The day my sister found out, when I found out my sister was dead, my mom took me into the TV room downstairs and was crying, and said it was like crying and shit, and just told me Nicole has died. And I remember I was like, no, and I got in my car and just drove off and left. And my mom still has her fucking ashes. Still has her ashes after she abandoned her, kicked her out, let her get abused by my dad, and she still has her fucking ashes. And it angers me, man. It's
Yep. I know, man. I know. It's because they have no shame, and there's no bottom for these people. They will keep using anybody, including you and your brother, whoever else is alive, as long as they're alive. It's what they do.
And then I think about all the eras, I grew up around the Gen Xers, because that's what my influence in music was Lenny Kravitz and
Right.
All the good music from the '90s and Nirvana and all that stuff. And I just think, man, as all these boomers alive, even though it was a generational thing, it was still their era. The '90s was still theirs. When I went to Iraq in early 2000s, it's still theirs. It's their era,
Yeah. It's still their era now. They're still hanging on. Like, they're dying, they're demented, they're shitting themselves, and they're still hanging on to power and control. They just can't give it up. They can't.
Some people I try to tell them about when they talk about politics. I tell them, I go, we need to get these. Elon Musk said it, but we need to get these boomers out of DC.
Yeah.
They're old, they're senile, they're running this country to the fucking ground, and it's really that simple. It's a generation of politicians that are boomers that are not handing off the torch.
Nope. Nope. They're gonna hang on until they're dead. They're gonna wheel them out of there in caskets. And I love Trump, and he's a boomer, but like, it is what it is. Yeah, it's terrible. So go
You
ahead.
you just wonder what is it going to take for. I mean, the good thing is that there's a lot of younger generations, especially the Gen Zs, that do not trust these boomers.
No, not
I
at
mean,
all.
and
Not at all.
that's the good thing. And anyways, yeah, I was living in my cabin, man, and I got that cabin and that land because I owned a house in Kentucky. It was I got a VA home loan, and I bought a house. And unlike my mother, who got a house paid for, who uh, was having fucking alimony, child support, spoiling my stepdad. I had to work at a factory 12 hours a day, every day from Monday through Sunday. And if you fucking got in a car wreck and died, you lost your job
Right.
for a whole fucking year to get income proof to purchase a house.
Right.
And I just think to myself, man, like, my parents were filthy fucking rich, and I don't ask for much, but I couldn't have that kind of money if I was them and let my kids go through all that, especially being a combat veteran dealing with this shit.
Right.
I'm not a druggie. I got a good credit score. I bust my ass. I never called out of work. And the futility is just all these bullshit jobs I had, Ollie, were just all run by fucking boomers that just didn't give a fuck, man. I remember I got a raise from my job when I was a lab courier, and he could have gave me a 3% raise up to, and he gave me a 1% raise. Like, what the fuck? Never called out of work, would work weekends, would do all this shit. And it's
Right.
just like, I got so fucking tired of dealing with all these boomer bosses just going nowhere, man.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
then you wonder why all these younger guys are just like, what's the point? I
Right.
don't have a girlfriend. Nobody's into me. I'm busting my ass. All my taxes are going away to pay for the Social Security for all these fucking boomers that
Right.
outnumber us.
Right. I can't buy nothing. I can't. I can't. I can't relax. I mean, that's just what it is, and they just keep taking more for themselves. It sucks. It really does. What do you?
Man, when COVID hit its peak and everybody was not driving because gas and everything was expensive, these asshole boomers were driving around their fucking muscle cars,
Mm-hmm.
going out shopping. It was just a zombie land full of fucking boomers, dude. And there was no young people because they couldn't even afford to go shopping at Walmart. But it was
Right.
full of fucking boomers.
Where are you at now?
And the only reason,
Are you in Kentucky or Tennessee now?
no, I moved to a different state. I moved to Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I got a friend who's I'm close to him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's a gun guy. He's into guns like me and stuff, and we like to shoot guns and shit. So I got a friend I hang out with, and his family are really cool. They're very friendly people. They're more of a family than my own family, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
I know what that's like. Believe me.
yeah, it's kind of. It's kind of tragic, man, because I'd love to get married and have a kid, and I just see all these people on your channel that have such great potential, man, to be parents and to be a loving parent and to be a mother or a father, and it's just like their opportunity was just taken from them, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and
So where are you at now?
I got on my disability through the military, so after I got a cabin, and I pay a mortgage in Kentucky with a cabin on it. And so I'm just paying that as my investment right now. Now, mind you, I would have only had this shit if I went to Iraq and had a VA home loan and stuff. Like, it was the
Right.
only way I was able to do any of this. But I got a rental house out here on the river,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just basically living life, man. I'm kind of living that retired life at 38 now, trying to figure out what the hell to do.
That's nice.
And yeah, it's still lonely, man. Like, I kind of miss the days where I went to work because I was doing something, but no one
Right.
tells me what to do anymore. And
Right.
yeah, it's just like my whole family's broken, and it's just there's sister's dead. My brother was a druggie. He remarried, and he still wants to ride the tit with my parents because he wants that fucking
Inheritance.
he wants the will. Yeah, exactly. You
If
know,
there's anything going to be left, and I doubt that.
no, no, my stepmom's gonna keep it all.
Right.
She's gonna keep it all. We ain't gonna get shit. And then I realized just how much of a simp my dad was, and how they gave a fuck more about these new relationships than their own kids. They never cared about their kids. It was
Right.
all just about them.
The grass is always green. They're always looking for the greener pasture. Always. Always. They're always looking for the better time. Their kids are nothing more to them than an inconvenience. If you're not doing something they can brag about or giving them money or providing for them, they want nothing to do with you. Do they ever call you just to see how you're doing, what's up with you? No. They only call you when they need something or want something from you.
Well, when I had my crazy outburst, which I still regret to this day, man, I'm embarrassed about it, Ollie. I really am, dude. Um, but they never contacted me after that because I blocked all their numbers and got a new phone number, and I won't talk to any of them anymore. But
Right.
you know,
Well, what happened? You went off on
honest,
them? What happened with your crazy?
yeah, I got that. What happened was that I lost a friend to suicide. All three, we had three friends. It was Vinny, me, and Pink, and we went to Florida to go visit my stepmom and my dad, and in '04. And so we were all riding buddies. We'd drive, do road trips, and I had a Sebring convertible we used to drive around in. It was
Right.
really fun, man.
Right.
And so Vinny killed himself. He shot himself, and he had boomer parents. All my friends that had killed themselves, they all had boomer parents that were just cold, didn't
Right.
seem to give two shits.
Right.
And then after he killed himself, a year later, Pink hung himself, and he left behind his son and his daughter because his wife was cheating on him, and he had boomer parents, and he had survivor guilt because he was being accused of sleeping with somebody's wife who was killed in the war when he got back because he was wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just a home readiness guy. Like, he was just there to communicate with the family and the spouse. And somehow some bullshit rumor came around and wasn't true. So he was fucking shunned from the army, shunned from his family, shunned from his wife, and he hung himself on the anniversary that we were hit by the largest IED in history in Iraq on OP Hotel in Ramadi. It
Wow.
was a big IED that blew up, and he hung himself on the anniversary of that. And yeah, then when that happened, my stepmom said on the phone, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll send you a package and shit. Here I'm struggling, working, busting my ass, paying a mortgage. I'm losing friends to suicide. My buddy Vinny's brains was still on the ground when we had his fucking ceremony with all the friends that came. His parents
Right.
didn't even clean it up or nothing. And fucking, she sends me a package, and it literally, dude, it's a box of fucking Cliff Bars, man. Like, the fuck am I gonna do with that, dude? You know? And it set me over the edge, bro. I
I
got
don't
I got
blame you.
so fucking mad.
Well, I wouldn't call it a fucking out of control outburst. I call it finally standing up. Like enough's enough. Finally, there's got to be a last straw somewhere. And probably
Yeah,
keeping them out of your life is the best thing that ever happened to you.
dude, I'm telling you, man, great things have happened in my life since I cut him off. I own land. I got a cabin. I got a rental. I got friends and family here that are like, they're not blood, but
Right.
I'm around friends all the time now.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's been way better. There's only one cousin that'll call me every once in a while. It's my dad's brother's kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's my uncle. But he calls me once a year just to say hello because we were into guns too, and he lives by himself.
Right.
He ain't never got married or anything either. But
Right. Right.
um, yeah, and then dude, I just been losing friends to suicide almost every year, 2 years, man. Uh,
Have you been suicidal?
honest, No, man, but I'd be lying to you if I told you I don't contemplate or think about suicide sometimes. I don't have the constitution to follow through with it. But when you see all your friends killing themselves,
Right.
how do you not think about it? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then honestly, dude, I've had more problems dealing with anxiety and stress from dealing with my parents and what I went through with them than actually the war. To be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've well, since I lived in that cabin, all I had time was nature and reminisce to think about all the things that have happened in my past, and it actually built up anxiety just thinking about all that shit. Like my eyes twitch now every once in a while.
Right.
I'm sure it's the war too. It's a mix of everything, really.
Well, you've been at
And
war
then I
your
just
whole
think,
life. You went at
yeah, I've
war.
been to
You've been
Iraq twice.
no. Well, no. I mean, I'm not talking just about Iraq. I'm talking about your whole life has been a war. Actual, where
Yeah,
to the point where an actual shooting war is less stressful than your home war with your family. Because it seems like
yeah.
the whole Iraq campaign was being fought by abused children of baby boomers. I mean, that's
Yes,
what.
exactly what it was. They were broken kids looking for a family, and they all had divorced baby. They all had baby boomer parents.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you coined it. That's exactly what it was, man.
Right. That's sad, and that's sad. But you come out stronger for it. You just got to realize, you know what? I was at war since I was a child, and the actual shooting war saved me. Because if the shooting war didn't drive you to suicide, the thing that would have driven you to suicide was your family, more
Yep.
than anything else. Because that's what killed your sister. That's what put your brother on heroin. You didn't end up on
Yeah.
heroin on hard drugs. They did.
Nope.
The reason you didn't is because at 20 years old, you decided to go dodge IEDs and mortars and
And
bullets
snipers.
and
Yeah.
snipers. And
Yeah.
somehow that was a better environment for you than staying around your fucking toxic, narcissistic baby boomer family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to not chew out, but I was just when I went to my friend's, you know, whatever it was when they had like some ceremony for them. I just seen that their parents and they were just like my parents, you know? They were
Mm-hmm.
boomers, kinda just didn't give a fuck,
Right.
no emotion,
They're all the same.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's got a son now that's living with his stepmom, and he's 15. His own mom doesn't wanna deal with him, my
Right.
buddy Pink,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just tragic. It's like this kid's 15 and he has nobody anymore, you know?
Right.
And it's just the grandparents are like, "Let's send him to military school." I said, "The fuck is wrong with you guys? Why would you wanna send him to military school after what happened to Pink?" You know?
Because they don't, because they
Fuck.
want to take no responsibility. They want to just pass it off. Let's just put them out of sight, out of mind. That's what they're thinking.
Yep. Yeah. And, it's not just veterans that are suicide on a high rate, Ollie, man. I think a lot of these young men now there's guys that are reaching 30 that are still virgins, bro.
I know.
And
I
it's
know.
and you just think, well, what do they have to live for now? They can't find work. College is just rigged for fucking women to just get a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, you go on a dating app and it's as ratchet as it is,
I
man. You
know.
get no hits. I mean, you know,
Plus, these girls
I
all
mean,
have body counts like 20, 30, 50, 70 guys. You know,
yes.
it's tough. It's tough.
Hey, I don't look like Shrek, but I ain't no fucking Brad Pitt either. But I mean, damn, I go on this and
No,
I'd
you're
get
not. Listen, you're not a
nothing.
heinous. Like you're not. I'm straight, but you're not a heinous looking guy. You could
You don't
get
get any
girls.
hits.
I know. I
It's
know.
pointless.
I know.
I don't know what it takes anymore, but then I think, well, they're not like grandma because that era is
Well,
gone.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. The problem is you're 38 years old. I mean, what age group, what age range are you looking for at this point? Because if you're going to find a 30-year-old to 38-year-old female at this point who's single.
Hell no.
You're looking for, baggage, and somebody else's baggage. And then if they have a kid or several kids, you're taking on other people's I mean, the world that the boomers have created is a fucking disaster. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
So either you gotta now go and do what your parents did, find a younger spouse, basically get a girl at 20, 21, 22, before the body count, but they're starting their body counts at 14 now. It's crazy. You got OnlyFans and social media and Tinder and Instagram. It's girls are for the street.
They got another sucker lined up as soon as they split up with you, man. Mm-hmm. They got another guy lined up, and I tried dating women that were in their 30s, dude, and they were all. Most of them were just, and I dealt with some shit in my childhood too, but a lot of them are just fucked up from their parents, man.
Right.
And and then you can't.
You can't. No, and then don't be. I can fix her. No, you can't. No, you can't.
No. And then you see these chicks on these apps that got pictures of their kids with them, and it's so fucking creepy. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you have a picture of your kid for the whole world to see? You don't think some creep is some predator is looking for single moms?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Which is what I had to tell my ex-wife. Stop putting Erin on your fucking profile pic, like, because Erin did dance. She had her profile pic when Erin was like 8 years old of her with her leg back above her head, like that. I'm like, what are you, fucking nuts? Like every fucking like those dance recitals are fucking pedo magnets to begin with. Why are you advertising? And then she made it like, that I was sick. She took it down and then made this whole thing because of my sick ass husband with his fucking weird thoughts.
Oh man,
I'm like, no, dude,
that.
She's 8 years old. You got her with her leg bent over her fucking head but this is how they think. And she's Gen X. I mean, my ex-wife is 4 years older than I am. So like she's like 54 now. And it's like, what are you fucking thinking? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, even
look at what they wear in public.
Her whole Facebook page is drinking and SSRI excuses. That's it. Like, they're fucked. These girls are fucked. They're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you see what these women are wearing in public, these young girls, man. And I remember when capris and jeans that were low cut with a belt line in the early 2000s was in.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're literally wearing lingerie. Every one of them are wearing, Daisy Dukes or tennis skirts. And it's just like, how do you let your daughter wear that in public, man? Like, how do you walk in the street with your kid dressed like that and think it's okay?
Because, let me tell you why. Because who's doing that now is Gen X. And now Gen X is trying to be friends with their kids, with their daughters, especially the women. They're trying to live vicariously through their daughters, partying with their daughter. That's what my ex-wife does with my daughter now, because my daughter's going to be 21 in May. Okay, she's 20. She's now trying, and they're all doing it. These fatsos, these fat dried out slobs. Okay, now they're all trying to be cool and hanging out with their daughters and their sons and trying to like, oh, we're all friends. No, you're not. Because all you're doing is stealing her fucking youth.
Yeah, they live vicariously through the youth of their daughters because they just want to be young again so bad. They vicariously live through that. And I sadly, Ollie, I think they're creating another generation of narcissistic boomers, man. Like, who's to say these Gen Zers when they get old are going to turn out just like the boomers, man?
Yes and no, because there is a good contingent of them because, like, it's natural for children to want to rebel against their parents. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing, a lot of them, is they're creating more conservative kids who are fighting back because it's the opposite of what their parents want. I mean, those are the ones you got to seek out. Like, the ones that are in high school now, and I'm not saying go after high, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm talking about for the future of society. These kids are in school now. they're the ones that are going to have to save everything, because they're the ones that are like, no, this is fucked up and I don't want anything to do with it. Like these detransitioner kids.
Ugh.
There's going to be, listen, there's going to be an outbreak of detransition kids that are going to be out for blood when they realize what their parents did to them. There
Yeah,
just is.
rightfully so.
And
They should
rightfully
be.
so. Exactly. Rightfully so. So I don't think all is lost, but I mean, we're close. We're at the precipice. We really are. Now, what that
I
does for
just don't know how
you,
America.
now, what that
Yeah.
does for you
Well,
at 38, trying to find somebody to share your life with, I mean, it's tough. It is tough.
man, because they're too old. The ones that, and I always hear this from fucking boomers. Well, you're 38 now. You should go find a woman with a kid. And I'm thinking, why the fuck do I have to do that? And I thought,
Exactly.
why is it all of a sudden when I'm at a certain age, I have to find somebody with a kid? Because I don't want to be dealing with no handoff like some. It looks like some ransom handoff at a fucking Dollar General. I see it all the time where they hand
Exactly.
off the kid. I don't want to be dealing with some other
The
guy's
only
kid.
the only
You know?
woman, let me give you, the only woman who has a kid I would consider dating is if the husband passed away. That's it. If it's through a divorce or it was a single mom situation, you don't want to deal with that. If it's somebody who went through a tragedy, like a death or a loss in the like, and they passed away, that's different. To me, that's a different category. Other than that, you're dealing with somebody else's problems and you're taking on somebody else's baggage. And very rarely does it work out, especially now, especially nowadays. The Brady Bunch was a
Yeah.
TV show. It ain't real. Ain't real.
A lot of these young boys are don't. I see them. They just are opting out of dating altogether.
Well, who wants to
Um,
get it? Who
you know,
wants to be charged? Who wants to be accused of? And that's the other thing. Who wants to be accused of something by one of these girls? Once they get pissed off, they put charges on you. They say this happened. They say that happened. They're not even fucking with them. They're like, I'm not playing your
no.
game. I'm not. I'm not being shit tested by you.
You know how easily it would be to sabotage your DNA if you're intimate with a woman who's got a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You realize how easily they could sabotage you and send you to prison and have you murdered,
I
or
know.
call the police and say he's got a gun. He's a veteran and he's got a gun.
Listen,
You're done.
I know a kid. I just talked to this kid yesterday. Within the last month, he had a kid out of wedlock with this girl he's living with. She's sick of him. He's 25. She's 20. She's 21. She has had him locked up. This is in Cali. 3 times for domestic violence. She's
Mm.
called the cops on him. They have arrested him 3 times, held him in jail for 3 days, and then had to release him because there's zero evidence. Zero, because, and if you knew that, you could tell, like, this is just a nice kid. Like, he wouldn't hurt. Yesterday,
Why? Why is he with her? Why is he with her?
because he's got fucked up boomer parents in Arkansas. That's why. Whose
Damn.
parents are
Damn.
trying to get the girlfriend to come to Arkansas with the baby. Say, we'll pay your whole way. And like yesterday I see him, I see him on camera. He's got a giant gash in his head because the girl comes in and just whips a glass at his head and breaks it over his head, cracks his head open. And he won't call the police because if I call the police, I'm going to go to jail. Or we're both going to go to jail. Because she said, I'm going to put marks on myself, say you kicked in the door. And it like, so what he's doing is he's jumping on his bicycle and he's got a year-old child. He's like, I have to leave my son. I don't have a choice because I am going to end up in prison or worse. He's jumping on his bicycle and he lives in California. He's going to ride his bicycle from Northern California to L.A. to
Ugh.
go to go meet up with his brother because he told his parents to go fuck themselves because his parents are completely abusive, and the brother went no contact with the family. And he's like, get here. So he's riding his bike, he's taking his stuff, and he's going to take a bike ride through California down to LA to go live with his brother.
Just
That's
let him know
why.
life ain't over, man.
No, we were
Life ain't
telling him.
over for that kid.
I was telling him,
Yeah.
like, as long as you could get away from him, now, and like, look, she's gonna put you on child support. She's gonna say whatever she's gonna say. Okay, you can't take the bait. And unfortunately, she's made it impossible for you to be in your son's life, and that sucks because I've been there and I know what that feels like. But if he doesn't, he's going to end up in prison, and that sucks. And that's what these young cats are seeing, and they're experiencing. They've learned the lesson pretty early. They're like, no, I'm not dealing with you, these girls. I'm not dealing with them. You're not putting this on me. And you're right. They're staying virgins. They're staying. They're not even interested.
I mean, dude, saying I always learned was a man with no purpose will find it in a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And you see some of these guys who are opting out, and our population's dipping, dude. We can't afford paying the Social Security with all these boomers who outnumber us, and these kids aren't working. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're in such financial record in this country right now, is we're basically paying for this communism fucking social security for these boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And the population's dipped, dude. Nobody's having kids.
Well, that's all
it's
the
tragic,
boomers bring
man.
up is Social Security, and Social Security is a fucking Ponzi scheme. They just want to make sure that there's enough Social Security until they die, and they can give a fuck about what happens to the rest of us. So where do you want to? So where do you want to wrap up here? Because we got to wrap up in a.
Oh, that's fine, man. That's fine.
So where are you
just
at?
I appreciate where I'm at, as in,
like, what's your plan for the future going forward? Where do you see yourself doing?
Probably I'm looking at eventually selling my property and looking for a cabin out in New Mexico, out in the mountains of New Mexico. I'm thinking about doing that, and eventually in the future, I would like to teach, have students and be an instructor of some degree. But I just don't like teaching with firearms with people anymore, because I've done it before, man, and you just don't know what the hell is going on in someone's head with a live weapon, man. I don't like doing that shit no more.
Well, being in a war zone, being in a war zone will do that to you too.
Yeah, I don't want to get Chris Kyle trying to teach somebody how to fucking zero their AR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but other than that, that's it.
Yeah, what I would tell you is don't try to force any type, and I don't think you're going down that road that you're going to try to force a relationship or try to make something work with one of these women. Let it come to you. I'm sure there's somebody out there. Have some faith. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't ever let these people back in your family, back in your life again, ever, because it's just not worth it. So.
Yeah, and to be honest, Ollie, I think I have to make sure, am I good? Am I healed before I can start wanting to be a part of somebody else's world?
Right. And you're probably never.
So I got to be honest.
And you're probably never gonna be healed. The goal is to understand where your damage comes from, and it's to make sure that you could always work your way back to realize this isn't on me. This is them. As long as you always have that clarity of understanding, you can keep moving forward. And it seems like you've done a real good job. Because let me tell you something. If I went through what I went through with my family, and then had to go through a war zone, and then watch all my friends killing themselves, I don't know how well I could have handled it. So I commend you a lot for how well you've held it together, Jonathan, for real.
Thanks, man. I stay alive for my animals. That's basically it.
Stay alive for yourself. I mean, because you do have a lot. It seems like you're a smart guy. You got a lot to offer. Just be patient.
Ollie, thanks for what you do, bro.
No worries, man. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the contribution, and this was really good. And thank you to everybody who's watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful. This channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here, you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to follow me on both my channels on Rumble, Twitter, and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.